You're going to hear me say this a lot, and you might not agree with me yet, but give it some time. I am confident you also will come to realize this as true. There's nothing wrong with you. There might be some things that aren't your favorite about you, some things that aren't in alignment with who you want to be and the life you want to live, and that's okay. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. You, who you are at your core, that true self that we are working to be in relationship with, is absolutely worthy and lovable and valuable and enough and fantastic, and just it's so amazing when we can get rid of all of this false BS junk. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. You may have been taught that you have defects, that your character is defective, which is pretty messed up to teach anyone that, but that's not accurate. Okay. So I want to give you a different way to look at things that does not have the judgment that comes with you being defective. Okay. Or there being something wrong with you or something wrong with your character. That's not helping. That brings it right back into the shame. If we have shame and judgment going on, then you're sabotaging. Okay. Just black and white: shame, judgment, sabotaging. Okay. Instead, I want to look at the different areas that do show up in us. We have our grown areas, those things that we have already cultivated, our wonderful, beautiful qualities and our strengths and things that we've invested in and we've expanded. Those are our grown areas. And hooray for them, right? We're going to definitely want to keep investing in those and keep expanding those. We also have our growth areas, those parts of ourselves that are not full yet. They're not fully integrated. They haven't been actualized. There's still some falsehood in them, or they are some old, outdated programming that we have some work to do around, or it might be things that are just simply out of alignment with who we are and the life we want to live, right? And we have growth that needs to occur in those areas. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad. They're not negative. They may be out of alignment. They may be things you don't want, but they're not bad. So they're just areas and things that need to be grown into, right? So we have grown and growth areas. That's it. No drama needed. No added drama, story, or judgment needed. All of us have things that we need to grow in. We all have areas where growth is needed. It is absolutely part of the design of being in the human embodiment, and it's part of what we're here doing. And obviously it's the whole kind of point of the illuminatorium is to expand these growth areas, right, and move more things over into the grown area of life. There is nothing that's over here that is worth shame or running away from. The more we run away from this growth stuff, the more we're sabotaging ourselves. Okay. What we're going to talk about in this section and the tool I'm going to give you is going to feel silly, maybe, or even really difficult for some people. And I'll explain more of that as we get into the tool. But what we're going to focus on this week are these grown and growth areas. And we're going to be listening and we're going to be logging them this week. It might not be super fun, but the deal is we have to be aware of stuff before we can do anything about it, right? We can't be operating on autopilot and crossing our fingers and hope stuff gets dealt with. We have to have the awareness. And when we can leave the shame and judgment behind, it makes it a lot easier to look at things as a whole. And becoming whole, or moving into the experience of wholeness, because we already are whole, but we want to move into the experience of that wholeness. We want to be in integrity meaning integrated. It means that all parts of us have to be in the mix. We can't leave anything out. We can't love certain things and hate certain things and love ourselves. It doesn't work that way. It'd be great, but it doesn't work that way. Everything has to come into the mix in order to have that mastery, in order to be whole and have a whole life. We can't have a boldly satisfying life and have all of this shit we're just not looking at, we're running away from, and we're hiding from, and we are pretending doesn't exist, or we're hating. Like, in what way does that sound fun, right? So we want to be able to look at all of it, grow where we need to grow, heal where we need to heal, and have the awareness to do that. So this week's task and tool is one of my favorite. You're going to do it this week in writing, but it's something that I want you to adopt and incorporate in your day to day until you no longer need it because it is part of you. It might seem ridiculous. Most people think it's ridiculous. I want you to do it anyway. Okay. I want you to just do it this week, even if it feels silly, especially if it feels silly. Feeling silly can be fun. The tool is the end of a sentence. The end of the sentence, the addition you've probably been missing is, and I really love that about myself. Some of those things we talked about before, like I have a lot of negative self-talk, and I really love that about myself. I hit snooze on the alarm every morning and I don't do my morning routine, and I really love that about myself. I have eaten only junk all week and I feel terrible. And I really love that about myself. But Jace, why would we love that about ourselves? If we love it about ourselves, then it's going to stay. Then I'm giving myself permission to eat junk and I'm only ever going to eat junk. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not an excuse for the behavior and it's not encouragement for the behavior. It is a practice of accepting every part of ourselves. None can be left out. It won't work. You can waste all the time you want. You can invest your time and energy and money into this space or any other, and it's never going to work until we start incorporating all of it. Now, you don't have to like everything about yourself. We do have to love everything about ourselves. The difference is that, like, that's out of alignment. I don't want to continue that. Totally fine. Okay. But if we don't love every part, we can't incorporate every part and we're sabotaging. So you're going to be listening this week and logging your self-talk. It might also be, I set out to do this task. I had a huge to-do list today, all the stuff I've been putting off, and I did every single item, and I really love that about myself. It might be, I had a ton to get done today, and I had a huge to-do list, and I only did one thing, and I really love that about myself. It doesn't matter what it is. The end of the sentence is, and I really love that about myself. So you're going to do this in writing this week. And I'm not going to give you field work for it. You can just keep it in your journal. You can keep a log in your phone or in your device if that works for you. But I want you to keep it with you all the time, whatever it is. And when you hear that self-talk, you're going to have to be listening. When you catch it, then I want you to write down what it is. And if you have done 12-step work before and you have those defects, which I do not like that concept. But if you have done that work and you have your list of defects, you can bring those into the mix as well. So maybe it is, I manipulate people to get my needs met. And I really love that about myself. We engage in these unhealthful behaviors like eating junk food and trying to get our needs met sideways and sleeping in, whatever it is, because of the pain that comes from not feeling like we're enough and not feeling like we're lovable. When we know we're enough and we know we're lovable and loved, we don't engage in those behaviors. When we're in a healthy, happy, full place, we don't engage in harmful behaviors. It is your job to ensure you feel loved and lovable. It is an inside job. Now, other people can help and they can bring stuff in and incorporate, and that's really wonderful, or they can reflect things back to us that are beautiful and amazing and that we really love about ourselves. And that's great. But at the end of the day, the only way that we can be whole is when we can accept every part of ourselves. That doesn't mean we have to hang on to them. It doesn't mean we have to always use manipulation to get our needs met. In fact, we're going to learn how to not do that. But we do these behaviors because we feel we're unlovable and we are unloved and we are unworthy and we are not enough. When we can accept all of them, when we can look and have awareness around all of them and know that even with those, we are lovable, all of that other bullshit falls to the side. This isn't an overnight task. This isn't like a lesson you're going to do this week and then you're done. This is a technique that you'll have to incorporate always until it locks in, until you have that full acceptance and full love of every part of yourself. And it's going to progress and get easier as you go along. Make it fun, be silly with it, have the emotion behind it. And if it feels ridiculous or it feels like a lie, because you're like, I don't love that about myself, that's okay. I want you to say it anyway, and I want you to write it all down this week. And we're going to talk about it in the next tribe session once you have this done. Don't be afraid of anything that comes up. Here's the deal. It's there. It's already there. We're just looking at it now, which means we can actually do something about it. If you want to keep pretending that your monsters aren't there, you have no skeletons in your closet, you got a long and tiring road ahead of you. I'll just be honest. When we can just look at the stuff without judgment, because it's not bad and it's not negative, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person, because we just aren't doing the shame thing, because it's not helpful at all. When we just look at like, oh, that's a growth area. Okay, great. That's a growth area. Now I know. Now it's there. And I really love that about myself. All of this is going to come together and we're going to leave all of the BS behind. We have to look at that stuff and we have to accept it. We don't have to continue it. We don't have to like it. We do have to accept it and we do have to love it for any of this to work. So to be clear, this week, as part of this lesson, you are going to be listening to your self-talk. You're going to be listening to your thoughts, what you're saying to yourself in your head, and what you're saying externally. So you might be affirming things that maybe you don't actually like. You might say things like, I am always late. That's an affirmation, by the way. I never hit my deadline, right? So you might be saying these things to others, or you might just be thinking them. So I want you to track it. I want you to actually write down any and everything you catch yourself here thinking or saying this week. Write it down and end the sentence with and, not but, and I really love that about myself. Now, if you catch yourself saying stuff to another person, if they're a fun person and you could do this with them, then that's great. Maybe you have a spouse or a partner or friends who would get on board with this. You can just say it out loud. I never meet my deadline. And I really love that about myself. Be silly with it. It's not, I never hit my deadline and I really love that about myself. No, and I really love that about myself. Say it with some feeling behind it. Or you can just say it internally. If you catch yourself saying, I never hit my deadline, inside you're saying, and I really love that about myself. Put as much fun and feeling behind it as you can. We're going to log it this week. We're going to start bringing some awareness to what we are saying to ourselves, to the relationship we have with ourselves. In a later lesson, we're going to be talking about subconscious reprogramming, which you're already beginning right now. And that's a lot of the work we're going to have to do, getting rid of those old stories. But for now, we're going to start developing a healthy, happy, complete relationship with ourselves. And we're going to do it by bringing love into the mix. Again, you don't have to like it. You don't have to want to keep it. You just have to accept it and love it. That's all we have to do right now. You don't have to change it. Just accept it and love it through that statement. Maybe you don't actually love it or accept it yet. That's totally fine. It doesn't matter. And I really love that about myself. A quick note on why we use and instead of but. But's not going to work. That's not the sentence, okay? But is not the sentence. But negates the beginning, right? I never meet my deadline, but I really love that about myself. No, that is negating the initial statement, okay? We don't want to negate it. We want to accept it, which we do with and. I never meet my deadline And I love that about myself. I really love that about myself. Okay. So a lot of people do but instead. We're not doing but, we're doing and. Very important. Very, very important. Language is essential for our subconscious reprogramming and for our perspective and for how we incorporate all of this stuff. Okay. That is your task. We are getting rid of shame. Just when it comes up, get rid of it. And you might say, I am experiencing shame. And I really love that about myself. That's fine too. When you can, counter it, delete it, cancel it, stop it, throw it off a cliff. Shame is not helping you. End those thoughts immediately. Be listening for them. All of that stuff you're saying, write it down with each sentence finishing with, and I really love that about myself. We're going to continue to bring in new tools for strengthening those grown areas and doing some progress in the growth areas, that under construction zone, right? For now, we're going to look at them and we're going to love them. That's it. That's what we're doing this week. My love and luck to you. We'll see you next time.